Nano machine. Bai, ang Hongguolya. Chapter 302. Disaster above a ship. Part 1. After getting out of Meking City, Chen Youan and his group traveled east along the Yellow River for 50 miles. They moved on horse so it didn't take too much time. As they got to the destination, the sun had halfway disappeared over the horizon and the Yellow River had turned red by the sunlight. Whoa! This is beautiful. They were riding on a horse by the river, and the sight of the river at the sunset was spectacular. This wasn't something that Youan, Hubong or Baki saw as they grew up within the castle of the demonic cult. After running through for a while, they were now near the Doman mountain area. As Gartak said, the river was split into two, with one small river going to the left. There really is a split. They went left toward the small river that was running toward Doman mountain. After some point, the mountain was now getting in the way, so they had to leave their horses and travel on foot. After climbing through the mountain, they saw tens of shacks hidden behind the mountain. It was the location of the Yango family. Wow. I see why they can't be found, Hubong commented. This pirate village was located at a natural fortress, hidden away within the mountain and rivers. The village was located right by the river, so it looked easy to move via boats, best hideout for pirates. I see watchtowers. Yang Danwa pointed out with his hand. As he said, there were some watchtowers with warriors standing watch over it. The watchtowers were well located so that they could spot anyone coming near the village. They aren't just mere bandits then. It was surely a home of one of the 18 river families, the infamous organization of the forces of evil. There was no way that the security would be any less. That ship is quite large. Youan then pointed at the two large ships docked by the dock at the village. They saw many ships over at the river while they traveled down here, but that ship was much larger than any of the others. This is strange. Yang Danwa seemed curious however. Youan turned at him and Yang Danwa explained. As far as I know, their ships are not small, but they aren't that big either. They are pirates, their ships are a bit smaller and made to travel at much faster speeds. Yang Danwa had the experience of fighting against pirate ships of the 18 river families, so he was aware of their ships. But those two ships at the village were much larger than any of the ships that Yang Danwa saw. Those ships looked like they were made to load lots of cargo. Oh, look at that. Hubong then pointed out the people moving along with the heavy load. Over 20 men were moving stuff by a pull cart and were moving toward the dock. It seemed they were moving everything they had within the village down there. I think they are dismantling that shack there, Baki said as he pointed out. There were 4 men working on a shack to dismantle it. It wasn't apparent at first, but they now realized that 1/3 of shacks within the village were already dismantled. Yang Danwa then spoke to Youan. Master, I think they are moving their base. Their base? Yang Danwa concluded that they were in the process of relocating. Yang Danwa kneu. That the pirates relocated their base to avoid being spotted by the government or enemies. It was interesting that they arrived when these pirates were preparing to move. But it had its benefit. Maybe this is a good chance. If we use this to our advantage, maybe it will allow us to take back the godly doctor's granddaughter without much problem. Under normal circumstances, a huge fight was inevitable against these pirates. But if they were busy preparing to relocate, maybe it was going to make it easy to infiltrate into them and find the target. We will have to look into it first. Yes. They needed information. The first thing to know was if these pirates were really trying to relocate, and second, was to find out where the granddaughter was being held. Baki. Yes, master. Youan pointed out at the closest watchtower from their location. There were 2 watchers on it. Can you quietly bring them here? I will try, master. Baki specialized in kick skills, so he was also best among the 6 swords in stepping skills. Even if there were watchers on the watchtower, they were merely top-level warriors, so it didn't seem that hard to kidnap them. Then I'll be back soon. Baki then quietly moved out. Soon, he was already at the watchtower. Youan and others were looking down from the mountain, so everything was clearly visible. Chapter 303. Disaster above a ship. Part 2. He's doing good. Baki quickly got up to the watchtower and snapped one of Watcher's necks. And when the other man tried to scream with shock, Baki sealed his blood point and snapped the back of the head to make him pass out. Phew. It wasn't a hard task, but he had to do it secretly, so it made Baki a bit tense. Baki then took up the unconscious man up and got down. That's when something unexpected happened. What are you? It was time for a shift change. Baki tried to charge at them but... Ugh. Hubong and Yang Danwa appeared behind them and quickly killed them. They saw other watchers approaching the tower, so they quickly came after Baki to help. It could have revealed them if they were a bit late. Were you surprised? Hee. And no, I wasn't. Baki shook his head at Hubong's tease. Be quiet and move those bodies first. Yes, sir. Hubong and Baki then took these two bodies into bushes away from the watchtower. Yang Danwa took the unconscious man up and brought him back to Yoan. We were lucky. They will not realize for a while, since we even got the other watchers who came to change shifts. But that would surely not last too long. It was only a matter of time when someone would realize that the watchtower had been missing of watchers for too long. They had to make it quick. Yang Danwa woke the man up. The man woke up and realized he was kidnapped and became shocked. Yang Danwa warned before he unsealed him to make him talk. If you scream, we will kill you. Nod if you understand. With a cold blade touching the neck, the man nodded frantically. He didn't seem to want to die. Yang Danwa unsealed his blood point and asked, Is the Yongo family relocating today? Why yes, sir. It was as expected. Before asking the location of the godly doctor's granddaughter, Yang Danwa asked something else first. Why today? We are told that our location has been compromised. Compromised? Yoan frowned, wondering if it was because of them. No way. We came straight down here. Yoan's group left Meking City right after they killed Gar brothers, so it was impossible for that to be known already. Yang Danwa questioned the man to see if he knew who found out about their location, but the man didn't seem to know that. I really don't know, sir. It seemed he was telling the truth. Yang Danwa then moved on to ask the most important question. Where is the granddaughter of the godly doctor? What? Granddaughter of, who? Yang Danwa pushed the blade that was on the neck. Hayayik. Don't try to fool me. I don't know. I don't know anything about a granddaughter. I mean, we don't even have anyone being kept from the outside right now. What? That was strange. This was about the granddaughter of the godly doctor, and it was Hingwenja, under the truth serum, who spoke. He said he messaged the Yongo family to retrieve her any time, so that wasn't a lie. Yoan then changed the question. Do you know a woman named Gam Mayan? She should be muscular and have a dot on her nose. Gam Rosu said her granddaughter closely resembled her. She also mentioned that all members of her family trained their muscles to better treat patients, so it was easy to recognize. Muscular woman? Oh, you mean the first mate's loot? I mean, his woman. The man recognized the granddaughter of the godly doctor right away when given the specifics. It seemed the Yongo family wasn't aware of who this woman really was. It looked like Hingwenja hid the truth purposely so that the Yongo family would not use the hostage for their own benefit to bring out the godly doctor. But there was another problem. First mate's woman? That message did not bode well to everyone. It seemed a year in the village of pirates had taken a drastic turn. This won't be good news to Granny Gam. Looks like it. Even if they kidnapped her due to deal with Hingwenja, there was no way pirates would leave a woman alone for a year. As Hubong said, it was likely that Gam Rosu will wail over what happened if she finds out. Then where is she? At least they knew that she was alive, so they needed the location. Yang Danwa asked and the man answered with a shaking voice. As she's on the ship. You mean that ship? Yang Danwa asked as he pointed out the large ships at the docks. The man then shook his head and pointed toward the riverbed where it connected to the main Yellow River and spoke. Our leaders are all on the ships over at the river. What? Yoan became surprised and quickly took steps to climb up a tall tree. And there he saw 5 battleships staying stationary in the middle of the river just before it. Connected back to the Yellow River. Damn it. Chapter 304. Disaster Above a Ship. Part 3. About an hour ago, Chen Yoan and Hubong found a small village by the small river. There was a small fishing village that maintained themselves by fishing at the river, where Yoan was able to purchase a small boat. 2 of them then set sail on the river to meet up with the others at the appointed time. The speed of the water was faster than they thought. And master, it's already so fast without a row. Hubong, who said it was fine, soon became tense. Yoan, who was at the end of the boat, took the key and felt the speed of river becoming faster. If I make any mistake or bump into something, I might not be able to haul them. Yoan clenched the key. And after moving down the river for a long time, they saw faint light over in the middle of the river. But suddenly, the faint light immediately began to grow large and brightened up the whole ship. And master, it suddenly became bright. I think there's a problem. Yoan frowned. Their plan didn't have any potential risks. They weren't sure how they were spotted, but it was certain that these pirates were preparing to fight. What should we do? the waters becoming more rapid. Their small boat was moving through the river water very quickly. It seemed like they were going to shoot past the ship of Yongo family at this rate. I guess we can't do it quietly then. What? We have no choice. Let's board their ship. Yoan then pulled the cloth off his wrist. The black metal above his wrist then scattered and turned into a sword. Hu Bang's eyes grew large as it was always amazing to see each time. When Yoan sent energy into the sky demon sword, the sword began to float itself as if it were alive. The sword lowered down, as if it was telling them to hop on it. Yoan got up on the sword and sent his energy to make his feet stick on the sword and spoke. Come here, Hu Bang. Yes. We'll fly, so I'll carry you up. Mun Ku would have been more than happy to jump up to Yoan, but Hu Bang became a bit embarrassed. Yoan laughed and snatched Hu Bang and immediately flew up in the air. Wah! And master. Hu Bang became pale as he was dangling in the air with Yoan grabbing his arm. After flying through the dark sky, Yoan quickly jumped down onto the ship. Their boat struck the battleship of Yongo family and sank. The speed was too fast for such boat to withstand anymore. Hu Bang, who did not hear Yoan say that he was going to go, rolled on the floor when he dropped. He then got up and became shocked to find countless pirates surrounding them. This is too many. He knew that there were a lot of them, but it felt different when seeing them up close. Pirates were looking back at Chen Yoan, who was floating in the air with a dumbfounded look. Flying air sword. It was a technique that only existed in legends, only possible in theory, with an extreme level of power in both sword skill and stepping skill. It was a technique that can only be used by supreme master level warriors, so it was obvious why all these pirates were terrified. It's not him. With Chen Yoan's appranace, the man who once found Hing Wenja's remains back at Sword Creek realized that the killer wasn't Yang Danwa. But of course, Yoan wasn't behind those cut-off limbs. Yoan glanced around to check the enemy's power. 2. The only man significant enough above the ship was the man hiding his face with a bamboo hat, and the leader of the Yongo family, Bak Hosen. The man was at the superior master level warrior level, and Bak Hosen was at the super master level. The only annoying thing was that there were just too many enemies. There are about 300 at least. And Yoan heard 4th Elder Yang Danwa's telepathic message coming through his ears. My lord. It was a trap. Yang Danwa quickly briefed on what he knew. During the process of rescuing, Gam Mayan blew a while to signal these pirates, and it seemed that the man with bamboo hat had worked with these pirates to set traps. Yoan then glanced over at Gam Mayan, the granddaughter of the godly doctor, who was frantically trying to hide with a dagger in her hand. With Yoan's cold eyes gazing at her, she flinched with fear. The trap was set by that man with the bamboo hat, so it was acceptable, but Yoan couldn't understand Gam Mayan's actions, although she was said to be kidnapped. That's when the man shouted to Yoan. Are you a warrior from the Blade God's 6 martial clan? Yoan raised his right eyebrow at the question. It seemed that man had mistaken Yoan to be a warrior from the Blade God's 6 martial clan. And with this simple question, Yoan was able to guess 2 things. They must have come here after checking what happened at Sword Creek. Yang Danwa told Yoan that the man with the bamboo hat knew that they were here for the granddaughter of the godly doctor. And if that man was asking Yoan if he was a warrior from the Blade God's 6 martial clan, it was certain that the man had seen the remains of masked men from the Blade God's 6 martial clan left within the mansion. Blue sash? Oh. Yoan was able to make an educated guess on who that man was. You are from the Blue Sky Brotherhood. With Yoan's words, the man's eyes grew large with shock. It seemed he was shocked that the who seemed to be from the Blade God's 6 martial clan knew the secret Blue Sky Brotherhood organization. And master, what do you want us to do? I think he's too powerful. That's when Yoan heard Bak Hosen, leader of the Yongo family, sending telepathic messages to the man. Bak Hosen was terrified to see Chen Yoan flying on an air sword. But the man was also frustrated by what was going on. This man knows about our organization and even has the doctor with him. That alone was enough to risk his life to fight Yoan. But it wasn't him who made a move first. I will take the person you kidnapped. What? In the air, Yoan gestured, pulling something with his hand. And with that, Gam Mayan, who had been standing among pirates, floated in the air and was thrown to where Yang Danwa and Baki were standing. And no. A few pirates tried to grab her, but they were too slow. Force energy. All of the pirates were martial artists, so they all knew what that was. After seeing the use of force energy, they now realized Chen Yoan wasn't someone they could fight against. No way. We lost the godly doctor's granddaughter. The man didn't expect to lose Gam Mayan with such action. Baki quickly kicked Gam Mayan's wrist to make her drop the dagger and sealed her blood points so that she couldn't move. She tried to say something but her blood points sealed her from talking. NNNGH. Be still, Miss Gam. She couldn't resist as she couldn't move anyway. And with that, Yoan jumped down from his sword. The Sky Demon's sword immediately came apart in pieces and gathered back onto Yoan's wrist. This movement was done quickly to make sure no one noticed the sword with the words Sky Demon's Sword written on it. Baki, protect her. Chapter 305. Disaster Above a Ship. Part 4. Yes, Master. Yoan then walked forward. He pulled out the white dragon blade from his waist and swung it across the floor. The blade chi coming from the pure white blade made a large cut on the wooden floor of the ship. Pirates became confused and Yoan warned them. I will kill whoever crosses this line. Nobody could even dare to speak up at such a terrifying voice. Chun Yoan's presence was that terrifying that the pirates' huge number made no use. It felt like they would all die if they even tried to cross that line. Ugh, how can such a monster come out like this? Bak Hosen became grim at such pressure. The clear difference in power even made him terrified. That's when the man sent him a telepathic message. Captain Bak, is the baby inside the room? Oh, you want to use that baby? There's a problem. I know you told me to, but my first mate asked me to hide the baby in my room so I hid it there. The man then rather became relieved at Bak Hosen's answer. He was from the forces of justice, so he actually didn't like the idea of using the baby as a threat even if that was why he asked. Ugh. I should have taken the baby with me if I knew this would happen. They wouldn't know, so it doesn't matter. Oh, you are right. They don't know where the baby is. Stay still. The man then walked up and shouted at Chun Yoan. I know you are a powerful man, but are you sure you can take that woman out safely from this ship? He threatened Yoan that he would go for the woman instead of Yoan. The man already guessed why Yoan and his group were trying to take Gam Mayan with them. Gam Mayan was a must-have to make the godly doctor work for whoever's plan, as that was the doctor's only weakness. I won't let you go with the godly doctor's granddaughter. That wasn't allowed. The godly doctor was the one who knew the grand project that the Blue Sky Brotherhood had been working on. If she decided to help them instead, it was going to be problematic. If they can't rescue Gam Mayan, the doctor will see no point in helping them. The man knew what kind of person the godly doctor was. But he didn't know the other person. Yoan didn't budge at the threat and spoke. Come fight if you think you can stop me, Yoan shouted as he aimed his blade at the man. It was just a simple action of aiming the sword, but the powerful energy proved that Yoan wasn't joking. Ugh, he is as arrogant as he is powerful. I have no choice. The man then decided to resort to the final choice. He glanced at Bak Hosen and Bak Hosen shouted. Humph. We have her husband and baby. Do you think she will help you? Baby? Yang Danwa and Baki became surprised and turned to Gam Mayan. She couldn't say anything as her blood point was sealed, but her eyes became reddened with tears falling from it. So, it was because of a baby. They did think her action was inexplicable. Whether it was forced or voluntary, she had a baby with the first mate of the Yango family, and had to help the pirates for her baby who had now become another hostage. Bak Hosen shouted threateningly so that Gam Mayan could hear. If I give the order, the baby inside the room is as good as dead. If you even put your finger on my crew, or if Lady Gam leaves the ship, I will kill that baby. Do you hear? Gam Mayan began to shake with fear. Tears kept falling from her eyes, showing how much emotional pain she was in. Why, you bastards? You now even take the baby as a hostage? Hu Bang glared at the man with a frown. He knew people from the forces of evil didn't care what it took in order to achieve their goal, but he didn't imagine that would include having a baby as a hostage. I feel sorry for her, but we have no choice. They too had no intention of giving up the chance to persuade the godly doctor. This had to be stopped. With Yang Danwa, Baki and Hu Bang all frustrated on what to do, the man confirmed that his threat worked. It worked. Give us the woman, and we will let you return safely. The man suggested his side of the offer. The baby wasn't on the ship, so their threat was hollow, and if they tried to threaten further to give up the godly doctor, it was likely to backfire, so the man tried to seal the deal here. But Yoan did not act. According to his prediction. What if I say no? Bak Hosen and the man became grim. They didn't think Yoan would say no even if threatened with the life of a baby. NNNNNGH. Gam Mayan also became so shocked that she stopped crying and glared at Yoan with her eyes wide from shock. The man frantically sent a telepathic message to Yoan. Ha! You are bluffing. Your choice will kill the godly doctor great-grandson. Do you think the doctor will help you even if that happens? But Yoan did not respond to the telepathic message and spoke. Kill the baby. What? The man became shocked. Do you know what you are talking about? Of course, I do. At that moment, Yoan threw the white dragon blade toward the crowds of pirates. The blade then shot through the 6 pirates, penetrating through them and killing them instantly. With Yoan reaching out, the blade flew back to Yoan's hand. Bulkusun shouted furiously. Why you? What are you doing? Do you really want the baby to be killed? Yoan then answered casually. I thought you'd kill the baby if I laid my hand on your crew. Are you not the leader here? Was your threat just a bluff? NNNGH. Why you want to do this the hard way? Bakhosin knew that he had to keep his stance so that his threat wasn't bluffing. He had to make it sound as if he really was up to the threat. When my hand drops to the ground, kill the baby. Why yes, Captain. Pirates answered to Bakhosin to play along as Bakhosin raised his hand in the air. This is final warning. If you don't hand over Lady Gam. But before Bakhosin could finish his words, Yoan's body became blurry, and a trace of him appeared from behind and then reappeared in front of Bakhosin. What? Bakhosin became shocked and tried to back away immediately, but Yoan's white dragon blade was faster. The blade shot upward like lightning. Bakhosin's left arm that was raised in the air was cut down and dropped to the ground. Bakhosin grabbed his shoulder and fell to the ground, screaming in pain. Aesiawawarg. And my arm. My arm? He was the captain and the leader of the Yongo family, an admired super master level warrior, but he was nothing against the supreme master level warrior, Chun Yoan. See Captain. The pirates became shocked and Yoan smirked to them as he said, What are you doing? Your captain's arm dropped. Weren't you ordered to kill the baby? Go ahead. Hayek. It was impossible to kill a baby that wasn't on the ship. With all the pirates too terrified to even speak, Yoan shook his head and stomped down on Bakhosin who was rolling on the ground from pain. Aararg. Do you think you can fool me with your bluffing? Bakhosin finally realized with a pale face that he had chosen the wrong person to mess with. Chapter 306. Disaster Above a Ship. Part 5. Yes. Master did it again. Hu Bong shouted with excitement. Chun Yoan never fell in trouble against any enemy since the beginning, but Hu Bong thought that it was truly concerning this time. Nobody would have imagined that the enemy would threaten them with a baby. But Yang Danwa was actually fearful of Yoan. Was he certain that they were lying? The Lord sometimes makes me think that he is listening to other people's telepathic messages or can read others' minds. Every enemy who fought against Yoan became shocked, as Yoan found out their plans as if he knew it ahead of time. But that was impossible, so it was only explainable through boldness and excellent decision-making skills. I see how he managed to defeat the 6 clans. It was only possible because it was Chun Yoan. Yang Danwa then glanced behind to look at Gam Mayan, the godly doctor's granddaughter. NNNGH. She became relieved when she heard that it was a fake threat, and slumped down. Yang Danwa narrowed his eyes. That woman is the problem. Whatever the case, the baby wasn't here, so it was likely that they had to return to the Yongo family's village to find the baby. She set them up to trap her own baby. It was understandable, but if they did not rescue the baby, then it was likely for her to repeat her actions. That's when Yang Danwa heard Chun Yoan's telepathic message. Elderiang. Yes, my lord. The man became grim. Yoan said that he knew that they were bluffing on the baby. They didn't know how he found out, but he knew that baby wasn't on the ship. Did he find out by using his senses? It was curious, but what was certain was that they were no match against that monster. We have no choice. The man then decided he had to take the chance when the man was only focusing on Bakhosin. This was the only chance to kill the supreme master level warrior. Without much loss. Humming. Yes, master. The man sent a telepathic message to one of the warriors hidden behind the pirates. It was a warrior from the Blue Sky Brotherhood who was hiding behind the pirates. I will buy some time, you swim to the docks to bring the baby here. If something happens while you do that, just kill the baby. Kill the baby? If the godly doctor works with them, then our brotherhood's grand plan will fail. Yes, master. Humming became hesitant about killing a baby, but he answered. He then carefully moved toward the rear side of the ship. The water was too rapid, so it would be hard to swim up, but if he reached the land, it was a short distance down to the village. Let's see what you do if our threat becomes a reality. He felt sorry for Bakhosin who was pinned down by Yoan, but there was no way to rescue him. They needed to buy as much time as possible, as it would take at least 20 minutes for Humming to return with the baby. NNNGH. Please. Bak Hosen felt like he would die. He couldn't push Yoan away even with all of his power. Yoan's power was enormous, but so was his physical strength coming out from his strengthened muscles. Bak Hosen became terrified from fear of death and showed signs of surrender. I will let you go. I will give you the baby. Please let me live. His crew was watching at him, but it was no time to keep his pride. But Yoan wasn't looking at him anymore. It seemed like he was deep in thought. Oh, I'm sorry. I had to listen to something. I just said I will surrender. Please let me live. Yoan then looked down at Bak Hosen and spoke casually. Well, I don't think your friend shares your idea. What are you talking about? What friend are you? Wait. At least I know that I don't need to talk to you anymore. Wait. Yoan then increased pressure on the foot stepping on Bak Hosen's chest. With the chest crushing down, with bones cracking up, blood spat out from Bak Hosen's mouth as he screamed. Aarg. Ornernern. The scream did not last long as Yoan's foot crushed through, and stomped on the heart, killing him instantly. Sea Captain. How dare you? A few pirates became enraged by watching their captain dying miserably and charged at Yoan. What? Where is he? He's gone. But their weapon shot through Yoan as Yoan was no longer there. Yoan was already near the front side of the ship. What? The man became confused. The captain just said he would surrender and also give him the baby. It was a good enough deal for him. But Yoan just killed the captain without hesitation. Ugh. I need more time. It wasn't long since his warriors jumped down to the river. They probably were swimming through the river, trying hard to walk up to the land. That's when Yoan looked at the man and spoke. You have lot up on your sleeves. Chapter 307. Disaster Above a Ship. Part 6. What? Yoan then raised his arm and swung his arm toward the dead bodies of the pirates. And with that, the 6 swords that the pirates used floated up into the air. Hayek. Swords are moving. Get out. Pirates became terrified and began to move frantically, trying to run away from it. But swords did not come after them. Yoan got up to the ship's end and glanced toward the river and shouted to ask the man. I see that they are swimming. The man became shocked. He was concerned when Yoan walked toward the deck, but it was now confirmed that Yoan knew the man's warriors were down at the river. How did he find out? He ordered silently while Yoan was handling the captain. Even if Yoan had a strong sense to sense people, it was impossible to sense those who snuck out of the ship when there are 300 warriors around. Do you think I will not get to them if they are swimming in the river? I think they are still within my range. The river moved very fast, so those men in the river were already quite far from the ship. But Yoan said it was enough. What are you? The man then realized what Yoan was saying. Wait. Yoan's hand then reached out toward the river, and 6 swords immediately shot out like lightning toward the river. No. The man took steps to charge while pulling out his blade. Blue force chi shot up from his blade and he threw bullet force chi toward the swords that shot through the river. It was his last resort to stop the attack, but there was no way that the force chi would catch up to the sword that was thrown ahead. And those warriors of the Blue Sky Brotherhood who were swimming through met their end without suspecting it. Ugh. Their bodies were penetrated by swords as they were not ready within. They met unexpected death and were drawn into the river water. But not all was struck down. Didemi. Dive. Humming and another man who heard the screaming dive underwater. The sword that killed 5 people lost its power to move and drawn into the water as it got too far away from the ship. The man then became relieved. It seemed that even the Supreme Master level warrior couldn't maintain the control of the sword with that far distance. There were only 2 warriors left, but that was enough for the job. He then shouted. You cannot stop them. I'm sure you know where they are headed. Do you see that we are not bluffing now? The man became confident that he now had the upper hand. He didn't think that threatening with the life of a baby was a shame anymore. But Yoan shook his head and turned. Yang Danhua. Yes, master. Yang Danhua let go of his blade, and the blade stopped in the air. Yang Danhua then jumped on the blade. With his foot stepping on the blade, Yoan swung his arm in a long stride, and the blade that had Yang Danhua above flew out of the ship. What? Yang Danhua then jumped up from the blade once it got close to the land, and landed on the ground. Yes, I did it. Yang Danhua was actually worried since this was his first time, but he brightened up when he succeeded. The man became dumbfounded and watched in disbelief. His 2 men were still in the river, but Yoan's man was already on land. This is impossible. The man shouted. He used air sword to use as method of transport. This was something nobody had thought about. Yoan could have done this method to send his members up on the ship while ago, but that was too obvious and noticeable, so Yoan chose to sneak in with the boat. Yoan then spoke to the man. "Oh, I'm sorry. I think I will take the baby with me also." The man became furious at sarcasm and shouted, "Damn it. Do you even know where the baby is? I'm sure you don't. Wasn't the baby at the captain's quarter? What?" Yoan spoke casually and the man became dumbfounded. That was the exact location of the baby. This is impossible. He didn't think much at first, but he now realized that something was strange. How can he know what the captain told me through telepathic message? This was only explainable if Yoan could overhear the telepathic message. An ability beyond understanding gave something more awe to a person. It gave fear. The baby nor the doctor isn't the problem. The man finally realized what danger really was. That monster disguised as young man was not only dangerous in its martial power, but with an ability beyond the wildest imagination. If that man could truly overhear telepathic messages, then this was a terrifying ability. I have to find a way to either kill him here or escape alive to tell this to the others.